Welcome to the ISB show. Good morning, Europe. Sahil, Rahi. Today we can say good morning, Berlin. Good morning, Amsterdam. But these teams were all expected to get there, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to cover all the matches that happened today, cover the Germany group, cover the Netherlands group, and talk about the Croatia group as well. Again, even though it is finished. But let us start off, Rahi, with the marquee matchup, or the matchup that we thought was going to be marquee in this group. Which was, of course, the Germany-Slovakia match, because there was a lot to play for in that match. It was all on the line. We thought maybe Slovakia would have a chance. That went quite the opposite way. 6-0 Germany. What a demolition.
It was a demolition. And we didn't go into this without reason. Slovakia beat Germany in the other game. Germany has struggled throughout qualification. There's been so much concern, so much talk out of the German camp, out of the media. What is happening to this team? And it felt like finally it all came together, right? This felt like an exhale. It felt like they took it all out in one game. It was a gorgeous German performance. It was brilliant. It was dangerous. It was effective. It was everything that we feared Germany could be. That's what they were. And it's the best they've been in a long time. It's a really incredible and great result for the Germans. And for the Slovakia, they just came up against a team that finally found their groove.
Yeah, it's so interesting because this campaign has been quite bad for Germany as a whole, right? There was a game in Northern Ireland. They probably should have lost that match. There was a game at home against Northern Ireland where they struggled through a lot of periods of time of that match. There was the Luxembourg performance, which wasn't fantastic. And there was the loss of Slovakia. So until this point in time, we're seeing all the other major teams in the world. We're seeing obviously what the Norwegians are doing. We're seeing what the English are doing. We're seeing all these other teams, the Spanish, even the Dutch, who we're going to talk about. And you saw Germany, like, what is going on in this team? And then suddenly today, you saw a performance where you're like, okay, this is why Germany is Germany. And anyone who says that they're going to go into a match against Germany, and you're always worried about playing this team because on a given day, this is what can happen to you. And you saw Woltemeda scored. You saw Wirtz was a very active, beautiful assist that he made. And of course, Leroy Sané scoring couple goals. The team was in full force, and on this day, you remember why this is a team that is so dominant in world football.
Yeah, and doing this all, of course, without Jamal Musiala. I don't know if he'll be back for the World Cup, but remember, this German team also was the one who gave Spain the biggest problems in the Euros. They were this close. One probably handball that should have been a handball and wasn't called, away from making the final of that tournament. And you never know what would have happened. And so I think you underestimate Germany at your own peril. And we have to say that the Germans have given us nothing to talk about. They've been boring. They've been unimpressive. But you knew they had a performance like this in them. And now the question just becomes, is this the new normal for Germany? Or are we going to see more of those other performances? That I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think after a performance like this, you automatically have to change your view of where you're thinking this Germany team is going to land at the World Cup. Right before, when people were asking me, well, who do you think is going to win? And this, that, they're asking me like right now. And I said, it's way too early for me to make an assessment on that. Right. But I was like not thinking anywhere about Germany being in those teams that I was mentioning. Right. And, so when people ask me, Sahil, okay, who do you think is going to win? Germany's not a team that pops up. But now after like seeing this performance, I'm like, okay, now it's time to start watching again, because like you said, against Spain in those Euros, they were very strong, and they did strong again today. Did you know this little statistic? So I thought that Germany was a team that had qualified for every World Cup, and there was a couple World Cups they have not been to. But in terms of pure qualifications, they have never not qualified in the traditional sense. There's been times where they weren't able to enter. Yeah. But in every qualification campaign that they've entered, they have qualified for the World Cup.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Brazil, of course, being the team that
I was going to say probably alongside Brazil. Yeah.
Argentina. But I think it's a fair point. I think now Germany and the German fans out there, I think this is a performance that you're finding like, okay, here's the potential of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reason they're tricky is because they don't have some of the big names of teams past, right? Worst, of course, is a big name player. Sané, a big name player. But in the past, we're used to some even bigger names, right? Some Michael Ballack, some players who are just so well known.
Yeah.
They're not there at the moment, but this is a dangerous team. And the thing about Germany, one thing we've noticed is that they're an incredibly good tournament team. They know how
Yeah.
to play in tournaments. They know how to grow into a tournament. So it's always tricky with the Germans, and this performance makes you scared again.
Yeah.
Again, you're scared of the Germans. You were not for a while. You thought, okay, maybe they're just in that second tier. Maybe they're
It,
not.
it kind of reminds me a little bit before 2010 when no one was really like considering Germany, right? It was like a young team and no one was really thinking about them too much. And then suddenly you saw in that 2010 team Muller and Ozil, right? That was the start of that generation. And suddenly when the tournament started, you're like, okay, wow, okay, these guys are, good. And you've seen a couple performances here when they hammered Scotland. Of course, that Scotland team did not perform well on the day, but then a performance like this one, it all mattered. And Slovakia actually should have come up and made this much more competitive. It was a complete demolition. So
Yeah, it's a good comparison because it feels like a young generation that's rising and look, in 4 years they could be, world favorites, right?
yeah, exactly. So I think that's kind of what's going on. So congratulations, of course, to Germany making the World Cup again. We're just going to go through group by group here. So that was the Germany group. Croatia, this group was all wrapped up, but just I mean, Rahi, like what? Again, we talked about this Croatian team last time. It's like do they like automatically give the other team goals? Like is that how they start off
Yeah.
every single match?
It's what
It,
gets them going. But this game really, it felt like it took them conceding twice to
yeah,
start playing, and they're forgiven. They've already qualified for the World Cup. I get it. It's
yeah,
it, it's hard to get up for this game in Montenegro, and it was
yeah.
sort of an empty-ish stadium, kind of a strange situation. So I get it. The
There's
intensity
lineup
wasn't there.
changes, obviously. Yeah. So
Yeah, a lot of
yeah,
changes as well. But
yeah.
Lukita was still playing, right? I mean, and Perisic was playing. So some of the stalwarts were there. Vardiol got subbed at halftime. But so but once they went down 2-0, then they thought, yes, this is where we like to be. We like to fight, we like to come back. And then they turned it on, and Nikola Vlasic was a gorgeous winner.
Yeah. It to be frank, this Montenegro Croatia match, since it's like almost like a local match, right?
Yep.
It's always a hard match. I've noticed this is always tricky. And to be honest, Montenegro, this was a very disappointing campaign for them based on like some of the players they have, right? Some of these
Yeah.
players are I know it's a small country. Shana, who's on this podcast, she basically was there, spent some time over there very recently. And it is small, but the players they have, some of these guys are playing in the Italian league, and there's some top level players playing on major clubs like Atalanta and stuff. And they have some top level talent,
Yeah.
including
Yeah.
including now at aging Jovetic, but when he was, he still has the same skills that he did when he was younger. So there's a lot of talent that seems. This is a disappointing campaign for them. So this is not an easy match to go play away in Montenegro.
No, not an easy match. Disappointing campaign for Montenegro, but I think you have to look now at what Croatia has done. If you put those standings up, for example, look, it's a very impressive qualifying campaign for Croatia. Yes, they had an easy group, and some might say Czechia, okay, it's not like having Norway the way the Italians had, but Croatia did this professionally. They did this easily, and frankly, it's refreshing from a Croatian perspective to have a team that just walks through qualifiers.
Yeah. And it's been a lot smoother than their previous qualifying campaign. So that exactly was the end of that. We of course will cover the Croatian team moving forward, but they wrap it all up and make it a final victory on this group. And then the final group that was in play, of course, was the Netherlands group. And the Netherlands officially qualified. I'm going to say this very honestly. They eased into the World Cup. And as they do. And another team I want to talk about, not underestimating, is this team. Right. I remember we were about to watch the US play the Netherlands in the last World Cup in the round of 16. And I remember us talking to some friends, and some idiotic friends of ours were saying that, oh, we feel like the US might have the advantage in this match.
No, no,
And
no.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. The Netherlands, firstly, just based on the players on the field, which is very similar to the players playing today, are an extremely talented team. And you saw in the match today what happens and how they play when they get going, how difficult of a team this is to stop.
Very difficult and consistently good. And this is, again, we're talking about a team. This is not their most talented generation. Of course, they've had stars come through the ranks. I mean, Wesley Schneider, right? Robin Van Persie. I mean, the list goes on and
Arjen
on. Dennis
Robben, yeah, yeah.
Bergkamp, Iron Robin. But this current generation doesn't have those kinds of players, but you still believe in the way they play and the spirit. And they're very difficult to beat. Even when you think about the recent tournaments, right? They gave England a tough time in the Euros. They took Argentina to basically the brink of elimination in the World Cup, right? So this is a team that continually performs, continually finds ways to attack, to score goals. Very difficult to play against. And like you said, if I'm a team in the World Cup, I would love to avoid playing this team in the group stage, in the knockout stages, because they just know how to play this sport and they know how to do it with verve and attacking style. They're fun to watch. Their fans are exciting to be around. It's just a fun country. It's a fun country to watch play the game, and they deserve to be in the World Cup. They deserve to have won a World Cup by now. They've gotten so close on multiple occasions. They've brought so much to the sport, and it's great that they're back.
And to be honest, like these players like Cody Gakpo, Xavi Simons, and even Daniel Malin, you saw he just burned by one guy today. Like, granted it's Lithuania, but still, like these are good players. Like, let's not make any mistake about that. Yeah, yeah.
They're good players, but compared to the Dutch players of the past, no
Yeah,
one will
for
argue
sure.
they're not in the same caliber.
100%. Yeah. No, oh no. I mean, for sure that they've, these. I get what you're saying, and that's why it's another team that's prime for people to underestimate them. They're going to come to the World Cup and they're going to be like, oh, England, Spain, Argentina, Brazil, but this Netherlands, Germany, these are stalwarts that have always performed well in tournaments, and they're very dangerous when you underestimate them. Like I felt like in the last World Cup, people underestimated the Netherlands team, right? And then you end up in a situation where suddenly Argentina doesn't know what hits them, and they're at the point where, like, let's say that penalty shootout goes a little bit the other way. You don't have the story with Messi and the cape and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what's going on with that. Real quick. So these are the teams that got into the playoffs today. So of course it's Poland, Slovakia, Northern Ireland was always there. None of them really had fantastic matches today. I mean, some of them were probably like the Northern Irish team was probably half in it because they knew they couldn't really do much there. But I don't know if any of them are going to feel very good going into the playoffs.
No, I mean, Slovakia started off with a bang, right? An incredible win against Germany at home, but then really deflating loss now to get completely destroyed by the Germans and with a chance to qualify. Slovakia is an interesting team. They can counter and they can defend, and sometimes it works out for them. You saw what they did, of course, against England in the Euros. You thought they had them on the ropes. Look, I think all of these teams are similar in that I'm not particularly excited about what they could bring to the World Cup. They've been inconsistent. Poland at times has been good, at times not so good. Though maybe the team with the most upside, surprisingly, in this group is Northern Ireland because of the youth of the team and because it's a team that really no one expects to do anything. They might be a team people sort of underestimate in the playoffs, and there's a chance. There's a chance for the Northern Ireland team. Remember, their Nations League, they having won their group in Nations League.
Yeah, so they're going to be in the playoffs. They, of course, will have to play one of the top tier teams. But that's the story with that. One final note as we end this video. We're at the second to last day of the first round of the European World Cup qualifier. So I wanted to make this point today. The smaller nations are starting to improve. You saw Malta in this particular campaign. They got 5 points, which they had a victory, and they in this particular match they were very, very close against Poland. It was actually a fascinating match. Too many people probably didn't watch this match. I saw a majority of it, and it was a fascinating match. These teams are improving. And no longer, so that's why I can say it's a disappointing campaign when you're a team like Montenegro or one of the teams that's, like in that rung, because these teams that are supposedly at the bottom, they are all pushing their programs forward. And that's a beautiful thing to watch.
It is a beautiful thing. You talked about, I mean, look at Faroe Islands. Look at what they've done. Remember us talking about the Faroe Islands, and they were an automatic victory. Right, that was a game that teams would use as practice. Right, you could score multiple goals against the Faroe Islands. That is no longer the case. It's not even remotely the case. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a team that is just coming off a game where they give Croatia a run for their money, right? This is a Faroe Islands team that has grown incredibly dangerous when they go forward, defend well, and Malta as well. You can say the same. And these are countries that, just years ago would have been sort of thought of as, do they have a team? Do they play, right? Are they? It felt like an afterthought to play them, and now you have to really, no matter who you are, if you're Spain, if you're Germany, if you're, any of these powerhouse nations, you have to deal with the real game, especially when you go away to these countries.
Yes, 100%. And I think that just makes football as a whole so much better across the board. And it shows federations around the world what you can do if you actually put some resources, if you actually recruit some players, and if you actually start caring a little bit more. I think that's a major thing that can happen. So for those of you enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. We will come back to you tomorrow with the final day of European World Cup qualifying. But from now until then, congratulations, Germany. Congratulations, Netherlands. How good are these teams going to do at the World Cup? Of course, Croatia was already there, but they will be there as well, Rahi. So that's how things are going to go.
Yeah, it's almost like these are the dark horses, if you will, or light horses, if you will. Germany, the Netherlands, Croatia, teams that we know are talented, know can do good things, but maybe people aren't seeing them as favorites, but maybe they should be thought of that way.
Hey, well, a lot of coverage from us coming from now until then on all these teams. Keep watching the beautiful game. See you soon.